Holding the last perek of Sefer Mishlei, perek Lamed Aleph, we began last week, and tonight and next week are the last weeks of this perek. Because this perek is a very, I think, important perek, there's a lot of information in the chapter of Eshet Hayil, so I divided it up into 3 parts. That's why we're going to cover just a little bit today, not too much. There's a lot that you will have to digest tonight, for those of you who are still single, and even for those of you who are married. And the rest, B'ezrat Hashem, will cover next week. Last week it will be the last week, B'ezrat Hashem, of Sefer Mishlei. Then we'll be starting another mini-series, which I'll let you know next week, B'ezrat Hashem. So anyway, for those of you who were not here last week, just briefly, Shlomo Melech is talking about his mother, I guess his wives too, but praising his mother, who he considers an Eshet Hayil. Eshet Hayil, loosely translated, is a woman of valor. So I began to explain last week that Eshet Hayil means in English a woman of valor, a woman of strength, but it really means a woman of many special qualities. And Shlomo Melech, in the very end of chapter 31, begins to tell us how there's tremendous amount of strength in a woman. As the rabbis tell us, a woman can build a home. She has the ability to destroy a home. Just about everything depends on the woman. She's not only the partner of the man, she's also the mother of the children. She has many roles. She can be actively involved in the parnassah, in the livelihood, and it therefore makes a big difference who you marry. And I did say briefly that this also, of course, applies to the man, the husband. It's important that he have good qualities. We spoke about some tips on how to date, what to look for, and we'll be covering a little bit that too today and next week. There are certain things that you can never know when you're dating. You only find them out later. But nevertheless, it's worth for one to do his homework, to look at what's really important. And what's really important, he lives towards the end when he says, Yirat Hashem hitit halal, a woman of valor who is God-fearing. In other words, that beauty and charm is not significant, and it's actually misleading. That we'll talk about next week. But initially, he's not only describing his mother, praising her qualities, he's telling us that many times in Sefer Mishlei, when he spoke about the woman, he spoke about the prostitute, how she is powerful, how she can mislead and tempt one, and pull one away from the Derech HaChaim. In the same way that Chava made the mistake of pulling her husband away from the Etz HaChaim, from the tree of life. In other words, she brought about death into the world. Shlomo Melech says, there is a woman out there who can instill life, not bring death, but she can make a big difference in one's home, and she's the Eshet Hayil. So we're holding in the pasuk, Gemalathu tov velo ra kol yemei hayah. Last week was more about how it's very good if the husband can trust her. Batach ba'alev ba'ala. In other words, he can rely on her when he's not home. There's so many responsibilities and duties of a Beit Ne'eman B'Yisrael that a Jewish woman has to really be aware of many things, including the halachot, the basics, to be able to run a Jewish home, for the husband to be able to trust her and everything. And he is blessed if he has such a woman. This pasuk, Gemalatu tov velo ra kol yemei hayah, means in English, he translates it, she requites him with good and not with evil all the days of her life. In simple English, Gemalatu tov velo ra, she conducts herself in a way that she only does good. She's only positive to him. She doesn't do anything to harm him, doesn't do anything to oppose him in a major way. So she's only good to him and never bad to him. That is the general translation of the pasuk. But what does that really mean? It means 2 things. Not only if the man is good to her does she repay the good with good, but even if he got angry at her, even if he did not conduct himself properly, it says here, velo ra. He adds the word, not only does she do good to him, she doesn't do any bad to him. Even though he may not have been so good and so kind to her, she does not conduct herself in any negative way towards him. Kol yemei hayah, all her life. And that is a very difficult thing for anyone to do. You know, you might say, okay, if he or she is good to me, I'll be good to him. But if the other one is not so good and not so kind, and doesn't say a nice word or compliment, Why should she go out of her way to be nice to him, to prepare his dinner on time, to make him what he likes? But that's what an Eshet Chayil is. An Eshet Chayil is forgiving, overlooks, of course. We're not talking about someone who's really having a difficult time in her marriage, who's really suffering. We're talking about someone who married an individual who's just quiet, maybe, doesn't talk a lot, sometimes gets angry, yells, maybe says some not nice, things about her, and here she's being a good housewife, a good wife, a good mother, nevertheless, despite everything else. That's what he means by Gemaratu Tov Velo Ra. Kol Yemei Chayeh, all her life, whether the situation is that there's money, in other words, there's parnasah, they are well-to-do, or whether they're poor. Regardless of the situation, she's always kind and always good. It also means Kol Yemei Chayeh, whether she's young and energetic, or even when she's older, and not, doesn't have the same strength that she had when she was younger. She's still kind to him, she's still good to him. It also means whether he is healthy or sick. When a husband, sometimes when the man of the house is very sick, especially in his later years, some women just give up and they take him to a convalescent home, an old age home. Now sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes that's what's necessary. You need help, especially if the woman is still working. But if at all possible, it's always preferable that the woman, the kids, take care of their parent. After all, the parent has taken care of them for so many years. It would be nice to reciprocate the same towards the parent who cannot on his own anymore take care of themselves. So this is the Eshet Chayil that she does for her husband, regardless of the situation, the financial situation at home, regardless of the age or whatever stage in life that they're in. And this may come as a surprise to you. You may not know too many people like that, but I've seen it. And this is also a quality of an Eshet Chayil. The commentaries explain that when she is sick and when she's not feeling well, she doesn't make it too obvious to her husband. He should not feel bad that now she's not feeling well, unless of course she needs his help. That's something else, then obviously if she cannot do it, then she will ask for the help. But she will not complain about every little thing and bring it to his attention. She will hide it if she knows that it will bother him. That's one of the descriptions that is brought down about an Eshet Chayil that does not try to gain the sympathy when she is weak, when she is sick, who would prefer to cover it up so as not to upset her husband in a nice way. In other words, the husband would be like, he would feel bad. She doesn't even want him to feel bad about her situation. And I have seen that. In other words, there are some women who would cover it up, who would rather not communicate their feelings when they're feeling very bad. They don't want the sympathy of anybody. They're very strong, and they don't want to, impose on anybody. And here comes the hardest, perhaps the most difficult one of all for some people. And this you may have seen, you may have heard. What happens if the woman is the one that is the breadwinner? She's the one that's making more money than her husband. She has a big salary. She's the president of a bank. It just happens to be, there are cases like that. And the husband is just a simple bookkeeper. I'm sure you may know at least of one situation like that where the husband has a real simple salary. He's just a plain bookkeeper or something similar. And she is the president of a bank or a famous attorney. You know what that leads to? It could easily lead her to be mezalzel, to look down at her husband, to embarrass him, to shame him, and to destroy his ego. But an Eshet Chayil doesn't do that. Even though it should be the other way around, the roles should be turned around where she is the one that's taking care of the home perhaps, not working so hard, not being the main breadwinner and the husband being the main one. Nevertheless, if that happens to be the situation, she doesn't take advantage of that by looking down on her husband. She still gives him the respect, especially before the children. I've heard of cases where the woman embarrasses her husband before his own friends. You know how it feels? How does it feel for the man to be embarrassed by his wife before his friends? And she doesn't realize that by doing that, this is how marriage is destroyed. How much should he take? Why should he take it? That's really cruel. And the reason why this happens is only because the woman does not understand that sometimes criticism, even though she means it for the good, if it's not done at the right time, the right place, you're better off not doing it because it's destructive. It's not helpful. I mean, I'm not even talking about the one who intentionally tries to embarrass him, even those who mean well. You have to know the weakness of the man. You have to know the weakness of your own husband. And if you know it, you're aware of it, and you have to be careful. Why intentionally step on his toes? And the other way around too. When the man knows what hurts his wife's feelings, he has to be extra careful with it, as much as possible. So this is the Eshet Chayil, Gemalatu Tov Elora Kol Yemei Hayah, that all her life she's thinking how to do more and more for her husband, how to make life easier for him, more comfortable. And it doesn't cross her mind for one moment that she will hurt him, she will harm him, she will do something to oppose him intentionally. A lot of couples do things that they don't mean intentionally. It just happens that they hurt each other's feelings, they did something that is contrary to the wishes of the other one. But that's unintentionally. To do it intentionally is, So a Eshet Chayil is extra careful, is extra sensitive. Commentaries tell us that ordinarily a man should not always follow the advice of his wife when it comes to spiritual areas. Binyanei ruchaniut. In spiritual areas, the wife may not necessarily give the best advice. She may be biased, she may have her own interests. Achnasat orchim is one example. Are you up to having guests? And most women are never up to having guests. And the reason for that is not because they don't want to have guests, it's because when they have guests, they really have to cook special and do their utmost. And they're not in the mood of that always. They're tired, and why should they? It's enough that they work hard to prepare the Shabbat, prepare for the family. There's going to be another guest. It's not the extra potato or the extra piece of fish. That's not it. I've already asked. That's what I'm saying. I already looked into what does it really bother. It's just that they have to work harder to set up the table. They have to conduct themselves differently, and it's just demanding, and they're not interested. So if you want to have guests, just tell your wife, we're having a guest. Because if you ask, the answer may be no. But don't let her know the last minute either. It's not fair. So she has to have enough time to prepare. Now, and don't bring 10 guests either, unless you have a wife who's a really Eshet Chayil like your wife, who says, bring them all on. Some women are really special. They can feed a whole army, and they're happy doing it. It's not that they don't feel that it's hard, but they're the exception. They're not the rule. So the rabbis tell us, but however, if it's an Eshet Chayil, tishma le'etzata, ki be'etzata timtza tov. Listen to her advice, because if she's an Eshet Chayil, then any advice that she gives you will be good. You don't have to suspect that she's biased, she's interested. You can listen, because rabbis tell us that in other areas, one should listen to his wife, because they have a very strongly developed intuition. They have strong feelings about certain things. I smell a rat. Don't be his partner. That man, I don't know, but you don't know him. We grew up together. We went to school together. No, I don't like the guy's face. And you know what? She's right. There's something that she senses that the man does not see. They were buddies, but it will turn out that not as a partner in business. And they can feel it. So you do want to consult with your wife in certain areas in life. But when it comes to Eshet Chayil, there's no doubt that her advice will be very useful. The bottom line over here, when it comes to man and woman relationship, where there are differences of opinion, the bottom line, rabbis tell us, is always, if you want to succeed, the man and woman are always going to be different. Just remember, everyone has something good in them. Everybody has something good. Focus on the good and not on the bad, and you will always succeed in any relationship. The reason I'm saying that is that even if you're stuck with someone who is difficult, whether it's the woman or the man, look at the positive, look at the good side. Example is what the rabbis bring us down the Gemara with Rabbi Kin. Rabbi Kin had a very difficult wife. She was a nag, I think they would call it in English. A nag, she would nag him, and she would complain. She was not helpful. She was miserable. Have you ever met somebody like that? They exist. Demanding, annoying, and anytime he was on a extended trip, one of the things he would do on his trips, he would always look in the duty-free. I'm just saying duty-free today, but back then they didn't have duty-free. But he would always look for a gift. So one of his children asked him, Abba, you buy mommy a gift? She gives you such a hard time. She's so difficult. And you're always thinking of buying her gifts. So the father taught his son a very important lesson. My boy, דיינו שמגדלות את ילדינו, את בנינו, ומצילות אותנו מן החטא. I'm thankful that this woman did a great job in raising my children and in sparing me from sin. If she had these two accomplishments alone, it's enough for me. I'm very happy because she did a good job in those two areas. She raised my children and she spared me from sin. You understand what that means, right? Okay? So as long as she was cooperative in those two areas, I'm thankful. In other words, he was looking at the positive, at the good that she had. And I always ask people who complain to me, Rabbi, I'm having a hard time. She's always yelling at me. She's cursing at me. She's just almost ready to throw me out of the house. I've heard everything. So I asked him, tell me, is she a good cook? Oh, she's a great cook. Well, you should be happy. At least she's a good cook. Why don't you look at that? How is she with the kids? There's no better mother than her. You see? It's just, a lot of times it's just the pressures in life. That's all it is. The pressure, the work. The two people are really compatible, but there's things that tear them apart. Get away by yourself. Leave the kids by your in-laws or by some friends. And you'll see that you'll have a different kind of relationship when you don't have the bills in front of you, when you don't have the cell phone, when you don't have the stress. It's a lot different than when you're under the stress, and going through the routines of life. Yeah.
One of your previous tapes, Rabbi, you suggested that Hashem sometimes gives you a difficult life so you'll have an easier time upstairs. You explain that to us.
I think most people would rather have an easy life here than have to wait for the Olam Haba. Rabbis tell us that one of the most terrible diseases is a bad woman. It's a lot of suffering. And most people would not want to go through it. Next pasuk, Darshat semer ufishtim vatas bechefetz kapeha. She seeks wool and flax, and she works it with the will of her hands. What does that mean? He's being very descriptive of a particular type of occupation, wool, flax. But in reality, the point is, she runs away from not doing anything. Rabbis tell us, even if a man is a millionaire and has many, many maids doing all sorts of, is it chores or chores? Huh? Chores? Yeah. All sorts of chores in the house. A maid to clean the furniture, to do the beds, to do the cooking. Do not let your wife stay home and do nothing. A woman has to be occupied with something. I'm always reminded by the famous story that there was once, I think it was published somewhere in one of the newspapers, of a woman writing a letter to the editor. She has a big problem. Says, can you help me? My husband snores and I can't fall asleep. So the man wrote her back, get rid of all your maids and do all the work yourself. You'll be so tired you won't hear him. That's what happens when women don't have anything to do. Yeah, they may have a hard time falling asleep. So working is good. It's healthy. And especially if it's work in the home, taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, So even if you have a lot of money, don't let the maids do everything. You want the wife, you want the woman to be involved in something, to be occupied. Boredom is very unhealthy and very dangerous too. So Darshat Semer Ufishti means that she stays away from not doing anything. She wants to be occupied, and she looks for work. She doesn't wait for the work to come to her. Darsha, it says Darsha. She looks for it, she seeks it. And it says over here that she does it Vatas behefetz kapeha. And she works it with the will of her hands. Behefetz means like beheshek. She's excited to do it. In other words, she's diligent about it. She's not shy from doing any work. The next pasuk, Hayitak ka'oniyot socher merhak tavi lachma. She's like the merchant ships, she brings her food from afar. She's willing to travel long distances to fetch work. If there's no work at home, if more money is needed, she's willing to go to work, even if it means traveling long distances, just like the ships that travel afar. Why would a woman want to work hard? Why would a woman want to travel far? Anybody know? I mean, the simple reason is because the income of her husband is not sufficient. Especially in today's world, sometimes you need the two incomes. But there's another reason why this may happen. The commentators explain that a true Eshet Hayil, what she has in her mind when she first gets married is, I want my husband to sit and learn Torah for a year or so, and I'm willing to work. And that's what a lot of women do today. What I'm talking about right now in their early 20s, when they're recently married. Obviously, later in life, the bills are start coming, and there are more expenses, and you have to go to work. But initially, she has an interest in helping out her husband, in supporting her husband, even if he's sitting and learning for a couple of years, which is a beautiful arrangement in the very beginning, in the earlier years. Vatakom be'od laila, vatiten teret leveta v'chok lenarotea. She rises when it's still night. She gives food to her household and an allotted share to her maidens. I sometimes don't like hear the translation. Basically what it means is that she gets up early in the morning while it's still night to prepare the lunches, the meals of her children. The V'chok lenarotea could be translated that she already writes down the assignments of the maids, of those who help her in the home, whether it's her own daughters. She gets up early in the morning while everybody's still asleep. I have seen this too. My grandmother, Alaa Shalom, my mother's mother, they worked very hard in those days, 70 years ago in South America, where they made their own butter, their own cheese, their own bread. Everything was made at home. And they would wake up early in the morning to do all of this. After taking care of all the needs of the home, she would go out and help my grandfather in his furniture store. After she finished in the furniture store, she would come home and sell furniture from her own home. She used to bring in furniture from the store into the house, have it there for a while, and bring the clients to the home, because here they would think they would be getting a better deal. They're buying it from the home. And in this way she would supplement the income of the business by running a second business from the home. Active, continuously active, day, afternoon, night, helping out in the house, helping out in the business. Hard-working people. So she wakes up early in the morning to take care of the needs of the home, even though she's preoccupied during the day with her own business. Right? We said she's earning a living, she's working hard. Nevertheless, she still wakes up early in the morning to take care of her home. But he answered the word, v'chok lenarotea. I think one of the interpretations of chok lenarotea means that she takes the job as a duty. In other words, she's not trying to avoid it. She doesn't complain about it. A lot of people do certain things, but they complain how hard it is. They would rather not do it. They need help. For her, it's a chok. It's a duty. She's happy to do it. And she takes care of it early in the morning. The next pasuk, Zamema sadeva tikacheu mipri chapea nata karen. She girds her loins with vigor and strengthens. No, that's the next one. She contemplates a field and purchases it. From the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. Zamema sadeva tikacheu mipri chapea nata karen means that she looks to invest. In other words, not only is she working hard, not only is she taking care of her house, but she also looks to invest, to buy a field, to buy a vineyard, to expand the business. Next pasuk, Chagara ve'oz motneha v'te'amet zero'oteha. She girds her loins with vigor and strengthens her arms. In other words, she's not lazy. Even though she's tired, even though she wants to sleep late, Chagra ve'oz motnea is that she gets up to do the job, even though it's hard, even though she's tired. She's not lazy about it. But there's more to that. She takes care of all the duties that a woman takes care. And the business is not one of them. I think he mentions that later. Yeah, he mentions that in the next Pesukim, that she takes care of sewing, needlepoint. You know, today you don't even hear about those things. When was the last time you heard a woman would make a sweater for her husband? Did your wife ever make you a sweater? Huh? Ages ago? A sweater? No? Why not? Because it's cheaper in Kmart. Right? Is that the reason? No, I think the real reason is that because people don't have so much time today. And everything has become so automated. We live in a different environment today. It's not like you sit down and you do it and you have nothing to do. But I think it would be something beautiful if once in a while, as a gift for the birthday, to make something from scratch. A drawing, a piece of pottery, whatever you like to draw. Just something that you did with your own hands. My grandmother, Ada Shalom, for all her grandchildren, made a gublain. You know what a gublain is? It's a needlepoint picture, about this big, a few feet wide. It's a picture that you use needlepoint for all her grandchildren. As soon as they got married, she gave one to us. And it's a beautiful, piece, and it's a way of remembering her. And of course, it took a lot of work, but she very much believed that her grandchildren should have something that she made with her own hands. She was a very special woman. So Hagra ve'oz motnea means she's not lazy about doing all the work, especially the work that requires a lot of effort. For example, in those days, did you bring flour home, a bag of 5-pound flour from Ralph's? No. You know what you brought home? You brought back the kernels of wheat. And at home you had to grind it. And who did the grinding? Who made the flour? The woman. She may have had help. Yeah. I think some people use donkeys for it. They used to mill a millstone. But that was if it was a whole commercial production. But in one's own home, you worked hard. Remember the days you had to salt the chicken? Right? In your own kitchen? Take out the feathers? Huh, Avram? Yeah, sure.
Even right now they look at you.
Some people, yeah. Hard, very hard work. The laundry was done by hand. And who did this? The women used to work very hard. So Hagra ve'oz motnea, she was strong. She was not lazy about it. And she did all this other work besides the business, besides taking care of the home. And all this work, the commentators explain, when it says Hagra ve'oz motnea v'te'amet zero'otea, she would do it with not cutting corners, without stealing, without cheating. She did it in a correct way, in an honest way. Ta'ama kitov sachara lo yichbe balayla nera. When she advises that her merchandise is good, her lamp does not go out at night. Again, the translation I don't care for so much. Ta'ama kitov sachara, when she finally realizes it and experiences good results in her business, in other words, she's already doing well. Lo yichbe balayla nera. That does not take away from what happens at home at night. Her candle, the candle of Torah and mitzvot, is not extinguished, even though she's so dedicated to the business. She's ta'ama kitov sachra. She's already doing well. Lo yichbe balayla nera. Her candle is still on. And what the candle really means is not only Torah, but it means that she's continuing to do the work at home. She's not ilom aznicha. She's not forgetting about or ignoring the work that needs to be done. The woman was so involved in the business that she was not taking care of the home. So that's why he's telling this to us. No, the home is first. It's a ta'ama, even though she's doing very well. Lo yichbe balayla nera. She's up late at night, taking care of whatever needs to be taken at home, feeding her kids, going to shop for the kids. The kids require clothes, sometimes homework. There's a lot of things that happen in the home. And the women deserve a lot of credit for all that they do, if they are doing it, because it's not easy. So lo yichbe balayla nera, she continues to take care of her home, plus there is Torah and there is mitzvot in this home. The business doesn't take over everything. She works day and night. That's basically the meaning of the word lo yichbe balayla nera. The light is still on at night. She's working day and night. Next pasuk, Yadea shillecha bakishor v'chapeha tamechu falech. She stretches forth her hands unto the distaff, and her hands support the spindle. These are the tools used for weaving and spinning. In other words, that she takes care of all the needs of the home. In those days they used to make their own clothes, so that's what it means, that she takes care of all those needs, even though she's busy with the parnasah, busy with the business, busy with other things, but she doesn't let go of all those other important areas. So Yadea shillecha v'kishor v'chapea tamechu falech, she on her own takes care of the clothing as well. The next pasuk is a very interesting pasuk. Kapah parsa le'ani, kapah parsa le'ani v'yadea shillecha la'evyon. She spreads out her hand to the poor man, and she stretches her hand out to the needy. Now, what this means, this is very important, that this Eshet Chayil is so engrossed, so involved in her home, you might think that she doesn't have time for others. No, not only does she have time for others, but she actually shares. Imagine making not one cake, you make 2 cakes, because the neighbor just had a little baby, and you want to help them out a little bit. You make them a cake for Shabbat. It's a beautiful thing. It's a mitzvah. Not every woman thinks of that. It takes a certain sensitivity to look out for others. Now, when it comes to tzedakah, a woman has to be careful not to give too much tzedakah without permission from her husband. You're not allowed to take a large amount of money from a woman, because maybe she has no permission to do so from her husband. She's a tzedekah, she'd love to give tzedakah, but she's not aware of the finances, she may be making a big mistake. So we're not really talking necessarily about tzedakah. We're talking about sharing what you've made for yourself with others, helping others with your time, with the food.
Even if she makes more money instead of herself?
What is that?
She's the breadwinner. She's the breadwinner.
If she's the one that's making parnasah, even then she has to ask permission, because whatever the woman makes belongs to the husband. So kapah parsa le'ani means, in simple English, she's not stingy. Imagine marrying a stingy woman or a stingy man, right? It's very difficult. So kapah parsa le'ani, I mean, she stretches out her hand to the poor man. She helps out. She's considerate of the neighbors, of those who need. Commentators explain that she's also fulfilling the pasuk. It's not a pasuk. What the rabbis tell us, kol poshet yad notnim lo, whoever stretches out his hand, especially on Purim, we give him. We don't investigate too much. If he asks, he probably needs it. So she doesn't, hesitate. She helps whoever she can. Another point here in this pasuk is he says v'yadea shillecha la'evyon, that she sends off whatever help she can give to the evyon, to the poor man. What does it mean to send off? Through a shaliach, through a messenger. There are various levels in giving tzedakah. One of the highest levels is when you are giving to someone without seeing him, or without them seeing you. What does that do? That saves the man some embarrassment, and that saves you from taking credit. I've helped that man. So that's why perhaps he's using here the word shillecha. She applies messengers. She uses a messenger to deliver the food in an anonymous way, perhaps, so that they're not embarrassed to receive any help. There's a story that's brought down in the Midrash, I think, of a Chacham that every day would eat with a golden spoon, a spoon made out of gold. I guess he was wealthy. One day, a poor man knocked on the door, and the woman went to see who it was, and she saw a poor man asking for a donation. And it just happened to be that at that time, she didn't have anything to give him. So she went and grabbed the spoon of her husband, that golden spoon that was very precious. He said, "You know what, take this for now." It was worth a lot of money. And of course the poor man was very happy. But later she felt, unsure of what she did. So she went to her husband and she said, "You know what, this is what happened. A poor man came and I gave him your golden spoon. He says, you did the right thing. You did what Shlomo Melech said, kapah, parsa le'ani. Kapah, like the cup, like the spoon. You gave to the ani. There was nothing else. Not everybody would do that. Yes?
Is it not enough a sign if a young woman just wants to get married, if she sees you, then you go to the person in the world, is not a close sign that...
To do what? If you see what? Generosity? Yeah, chesed. That's what Eliezer was looking for by Rivka, right?
Yes.
Chesed, that's the family. Their family had chesed. Am Yisrael has chesed. By Shanim Rachmanim Gomlei Chasadim. Obviously, you're looking for all these good qualities. But there is a saying in Yiddish: all the good qualities in one, you will find in no one. And as we said last week, nobody is perfect. Eshet Hayil Mi Imsa. You can ask with a question mark: is it possible to find the perfect woman, the Eshet Hayil? Nevertheless, there are some that contain many good qualities. And that's why it's important to know what is a priority and what's not a priority. What's not a priority? She's 5'3" and not 5'5". Right? What's the big deal? Yes. It all depends. That's a very difficult thing to say. I even hesitated if to say it or not. Because if a woman is very sick, she's not feeling well, she may want to lay down. She may need some help. And that's fine. That's okay. That's normal. But it could mean that what the commentaries were talking about is more in general, that there's something bothering her, and she would rather not talk about it because she knows that it may not be too pleasing. It may create a hardship. Oh, now he has to run out. He's going to be nervous, the husband. But obviously, if she's really not feeling well, she needs help. She should ask for help. She shouldn't suffer because of that. What I was describing is more a situation where she would rather keep it to herself where she can and not make her husband nervous or all of us, uneasy about her situation where it's not something that urgent. She's trying to save him or any ill feelings, anything that might disturb him, if possible. Yeah. All right. The last pasuk I think that we're going to do tonight is Lo tira levetach mishaler ki chol betach lavu shanim. She fears not for her household, for snow, for all her household are dressed in crimson. In simple English, in Yiddish they would call her a balabuste. Have you ever heard the term balabuste? Yeah, in Yiddish. A balabuste is a woman who's, how would I say, she's in complete control of the house. She's a good host, a good mother, a good wife, dresses the kids properly. She knows how to shop, right? As we said last week, she uses her coupons wisely, right? That's not that necessary, but all around, she does a good job in running the house. That's called a balabusta in Yiddish. So in this pasuk, Lo tira levetach mishale ki kol beta lavu shani, means that even when the weather changes, when there's snow coming down, she's not concerned. She's already prepared all their clothing for them for the winter. Ki kol beta lavu shanim, everybody is well dressed in home. Now, this home, as we will see next week, he describes the home of this woman, of the Eshet Chayil. It's not gaudy. You know what the English word gaudy means? In other words, it's betuf tam, it's done with good taste, and it's not overdone. A lot of people buy things and they overdo it, they exaggerate, they spend all this money, just to bring out people's eyes, to draw their attention. Her taste, she has good taste, she's modest, and more important than that, she's a responsible woman, and therefore she has nothing to fear. When the winter comes and the kids need clothing, they always have what they need. That is the idea of this pasuk. I just want to finish. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week with the rest of the chapter. You may hear, or you may read, or you may sing this words B'ezrat Hashem every Friday night, and you may wonder to yourself, does this really exist? And I want to tell you that a great deal of the qualities that you will find in Eshet Chayil, perhaps not all of them, you will see many women. Baruch Hashem, Am Yisrael is blessed with a lot of righteous women, strong women, women that you can trust, women that are intelligent, responsible, kind, and good. But you know what? They were not born like that. Don't think that a woman like this is born like that. Men and women are born with certain inclinations. They have certain characteristics that help them, of course, in certain areas. But they still have to work on themselves. If faced with a challenge, they still have to, prove themselves. And marriage is very challenging. You may have been kind and nice to your friends when you were single, but now you have a husband who may be some tough guy, tough man. You may have kids who are not easy, and whoever is a teacher knows about kids, right? They're not easy. So imagine if you have them all the time in your home. Here you're having a hard time in school. What about in your home? A child may not be easy. Not every kid is a cute. Well, they're all cutie pies, but they may not be easy. May be difficult. Some of them may be very difficult. And obviously when that happens, of course, they both have to work together, the husband and wife, to deal with the situation. Hashem Yazor, of course, Hashem is our partner too. He should help us, that we shouldn't have too much of a hard time. But a Neshet Chayil is not scared. A Neshet Chayil realizes what her duties are, and she faces them with pride, and she's not, scared. She doesn't hesitate. She's not afraid of entering this kind of a situation. She looks forward to it because she knows that she's doing what her mother did and what her grandmother did all along in the past. And that is to build a Beit Ne'eman B'Yisrael, to build a Jewish home. And in the Galut, it's something which is not so easy to do. In the face of many dangers, there are many sacrifices. So obviously, for one to be zocheh, for one to marry, to have a partner that can help and can complement you, one needs to pray to Hashem that it should be the right one, that it should be the one that will be able to help out in creating this Beit Ne'eman B'Yisrael. It's not an easy job, but it is possible when the two are working towards the same common goals. When the two are not opposing each other, you will have two heads are better than one. And if this woman is not a lazy woman, not a stingy woman, a kind woman, a God-fearing woman, and of course it helps you if she's a good cook too, then obviously you should have a very happy marriage. Don't complain because you don't like what she puts on. Her taste is not your taste. If you start complaining about things, you'll always find something to complain about. Not everything may be 100% the way you like it. That is why Shlomo Melech in this parak points out what's really important. And he reminds us, Eshet Chayil mi yimtza. You may not find, because mi yimtza. Who will find this? Well, those who are good, really good, God-fearing people themselves, they deserve something like this too. But even they will not necessarily have every single one of these qualities. Not every woman will work hard and go out and fetch work and wake up early in the morning, go to sleep late, and have her light still on late at night, and and help the poor and be so active. Not everybody's like that. But find one of these qualities in your wife, and you're lucky. You're a fortunate man. That's why I always point out this. Always look for the positive in every individual, and you will always be able to get along with just almost everybody. Look for the positive, and everybody has something positive. Everyone really does. The problem is that we're selfish. Many times people are selfish, and they want something for themselves, and therefore they ignore, they go and only look at the negative. This is no good anymore. Let me switch it. Let me take someone else. That someone else may have something else, but may be lacking something else. You're never going to find everything 100%. So be happy with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you, and realize that this is min hashamayim. Try to preserve it. Try to work on the marriage. Always look at the positive. And if the two will look at the positive, there would never be any divorces whatsoever. Very rarely. The fact that we're having so many divorces today is an indication that something is wrong in people's mind. They don't have the right ideas about what marriage is. And of course, a lot of the women are not necessarily Eshet Chayil. They don't want to be an Eshet Chayil. They can be if they want to, but they don't want to be. They're not thinking in this direction. I should work so hard for my husband. Why? He doesn't work so hard. What does one thing have to do with another? You have beautiful kids. Do it for them. Do it for the home. Prove yourself.
No, he doesn't. He never compliments me. Why should I buy him a card for his birthday? What is this about? Revenge? You be a good person yourself. Right? Gemalat hu tov velo ra, didn't we say that? She does only good to him. Right? I wish there was a perek also for the men. I mean, but in reality, if you look at it objectively, it applies to everybody. People have to be kind to each other. People have to be nice to each other. This does not only apply to women, it applies to men too. But the reason why he puts this perek, or he applies this perek mostly to women, is because, as I said in the very beginning, the woman builds the home or destroys the home. A lot depends on who the woman is. So when you go out and date someone, you don't want to settle for just anybody. You want to really settle for a woman who has at least the basics, the right values, the right hashkafot, God-fearing. If you have the basic ingredients, then hopefully there's a good chemistry, there's a physical attraction, similar backgrounds, then hopefully B'ezrat Hashem it will work. But if you're going to be very, very picky, Chaz Hashem, you may never get married. You may be always pushing away something that has good potential. In the end, when it comes to zivugim, as I've talked about in other lectures, one requires siyata d'ishmaya, help from heaven, to guide us to the right person so that we should know, or we should feel, or both, that this is the right one. And this can only happen with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help. On our own, we would never know. As I pointed out last week, in an orthodox dating system, a woman cannot express herself emotionally. She cannot show how sensitive and how caring she is. It would not be right and not be modest of her to show all that. So you have to basically use your judgment by what you see and what you sense, what you've heard, what you found out from your homework, and hopefully trust in Hashem. You're always jumping in. You're never knowing 100% until you've lived with a person for 20 years. And even then you may not know everything. Yes?
I just want to tell you about the women in Iran.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it.
That's a parasha for itself. Women in Iran, and it's a separate book I have to write about that. That's something completely different. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
People 35 years ago,
Yeah.
or 40 years ago,
Yeah.
if there was one divorce,
Right.
every 20 years you would see one divorce or something.
Right.
But all these people, they were misused,
Abuse, you mean?
abused, yes, they were
Yeah.
misused,
Right.
abused. The husband was gambler, the husband was...
In Iran, they gamble too? Gambling there too?
yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of person, but you see, the wife of the house,
Yeah.
the wife of the house,
She kept quiet.
kept quiet because of the children, because of
Right.
the kids.
Right? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. That's the way.
Everybody would say that
Yeah.
because of the kids.
Yeah.
And imagine how much suffering they are.
Sure,
they
sure.
will be having.
Sure.
They put life for themselves.
Yeah.
They sacrifice for the kids. They sacrifice for the kids.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
don't want to be associated with the name of the divorce
Yeah.
to be on their family.
Yeah. Anyway, there's no doubt that some women are endowed with special neshamot. They're really, really, really special. But remember, a lot of this depends on oneself, what he wants to make of himself, what he wants to make of his marriage. This is Southern California, right? No. What happens if you don't have sprinklers? Your beautiful garden will die. We don't live in Seattle or Vancouver here, where you don't need these things. You need to invest. You need to prune your roses. You need to water your plants. You need to take care of your marriage. If you don't do something about it, if you don't refine your character, it's going to be a lot harder. When people work on themselves, the chances for success are greater. B'ezrat Hashem will continue next week. Yeah.